I'm back on halftime. Aaron Torres joining us, host of the Aaron Torres Sports Podcast, Fox Sports Radio. You can read all his stuff and get his picks for this weekend at AaronTorresOnline.com. AT, how's your week been, and what's going on today?
Oh, the week's been busy, Phil. I mean, listen, we all are in the same business, and when we get a little football crossover here with basketball to end the season, it's busy. But listen, man, this is also why we do what we do. I love it. I'm not complaining. So I'll say this, man. Between, and I know we'll talk about all of it, but on the football side, the Ohio State stuff, in the Big Ten title game, out of the Big Ten title game, LSU, bowl eligible, not bowl eligible, Coach K, Nate Oates. There's just no shortage of stuff. So listen, I'll take this over what we had in April, where we were basically talking Tiger King 24 hours a day.
The good old days of the summertime.
So
they were good. I mean, the Tiger King stuff was fun. Don't get me wrong, but I mean to have to talk about it for 2 weeks straight because there was nothing else in the world positive or fun going on. That was tough. But anyway, I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry.
No, he's right. I mean, that's when we were always saying, we can't wait until there's sports to talk about. So let's get to it. So Big Ten really just trying to cover their butts by allowing Ohio State to get past this 6-game threshold. So there's two ways to look at this. One, can you blame the Ohio State players? I mean, they've had some issues with outbreaks, so maybe that is on the team itself, but they can only play who they've been up against. They can't have something to do about other teams' outbreaks. For me, this seems more about the Big Ten realized that they made this artificial threshold that was unnecessary and that they would be costing themselves potentially a lot of money unless they change this rule and allow Ohio State into the championship game.
Yeah, Phil, I think you pretty much covered all the major bases there. I am somebody that I am not against this decision because it was a dumb rule to begin with. And guys, it just goes back to, and I know I've been banging this drum on this show since probably July, the Big Ten, every step of this way, has just tried to show how much smarter that they were than everybody else, and we're going to do this, and we're going to do that, and if you remember, they canceled the season before we had ever even had a padded practice because it wasn't safe. And then they brought it back, and then they put all these rules into place. And then, oh, by the way, they're going to start on October 23rd, even though teams were allowed to practice even before it was announced that the season was going to come back. And so this is just another dumb misstep. And what I think it really comes down to was the Big Ten thought that they were so smart because they figured out daily testing, and we're going to daily test, and we'll never have a COVID issue on any of our campuses. Well, guys, I looked yesterday, and this number might not be exactly correct, but I believe only 3 of the 14 teams in the Big Ten are going to be able to get in all of their games this fall. And I think some of them, like Nebraska, it wasn't their fault, but another team canceled on them. And so there are issues, but I just think it just goes back to this idiocy that the Big Ten thought they had everything figured out. Daily testing was going to solve everything. We're going to play 8 games in 8 weeks and crown a champion. Well, here we are. Ohio State's already missed 3. Other teams, Maryland's missed a bunch. Wisconsin's missed a bunch, on and on and on. And it just goes back to the Big Ten trying to prove to the world how much smarter they are. And they've basically been wrong, Phil and Matt, every step of the way.
Now we see a lot of, Boston College yesterday says we're not going to play in a bowl game, and they deserve to be in one. They played all 11 of their games. They won 6. It's a pretty good season, especially in their coach's first year. LSU says, not this year. We're not going to play in a bowl game because they probably don't want to, they want to get ahead of the NCAA. They don't want to play in Shreveport. I think there's going to be a lot of other schools, though, that decide to opt out because I don't think you get what you usually get from bowl season now if you're a football team. You don't get a ton of extra practices. You don't get this fun and exciting trip that you bring a lot of fans on. And I think that I'm not saying there'll be a shortage of bowl teams, but I think there's going to be a lot of teams making this announcement in the next week or so.
Phil, I think you're absolutely onto something. Maybe a great topic for my Monday podcast because there's no games to talk about this weekend. Nobody's playing except for Alabama and Arkansas. Yeah. But no, I think you're right. And first of all, what I would say is I'm surprised, frankly, at the number of bowl games that want to move forward. And I know that part of it is TV and these things are run by ESPN. But when you look at the fact that you can't have fans in the stands, that as you said, you can't, it's supposed to be a week-long celebration of your season, and you can't do that this year. And so I think on the one hand, I think more bowl games themselves will cancel. But then two, I think you're 100% right, Phil. And I think ironically, it goes into a lot of what Coach K was saying and what Nate Oates was saying and that little back and forth over the course of the last few days is like Coach K's point, and I think he's wrong on this, but like when it came out yesterday that the reason they canceled that final out-of-conference game is so that his players could go home for Christmas, I think that's a struggle that a lot of college football coaches are going to be in over the next few weeks. And if you read the statement from BC, that was basically it, was that their head coach, Jeff Hafley, basically said, like, look, we're celebrating an incredible season, and exactly what you said, Phil, normally that's how you celebrate a season. But to us, it's more important that these kids who have basically been on campus, not really allowed to go home, not really allowed to do anything since June, early July, that they get home for the holidays. And, the thing, Phil, that I would say, I don't know how much your other guests have talked about this, but the protocols with which these players were under once they got to campus was insane. And just to give you an example, I've talked to people across both football and basketball where it's like, when mom and dad come into town for a game in places that allow fans, obviously, the coaches don't want you to go see mom and dad after the game. They don't want you to give mom and dad a hug because you're essentially popping that bubble that they've been working so hard to maintain, and you're putting yourself at risk that maybe they're carrying the virus. And so when you think about the fact that these kids have been on campus alone, by themselves, they don't get to socialize, they don't get to do the normal things college kids do, with the fact that they frankly probably haven't even been able to go home since they got back to campus, certainly not since the season has started. I think it was the right move for BC, and I think to your point, Phil, I think it's going to be the right move for a lot of coaches that just say, for my kids, it's more important to they did everything right over the past 4 or 5 months. They need to get home and relax a little bit as well.
Brandon in Paris just texted in. He said the way the Big Ten is ran, they should hire Chad Morris into an upper-level management position. So maybe that's what the Big Ten needs at this point. We got.
Hey, by the way, first of all, before we get into any other topics, Matt, I'll say this. I had a couple sources reach out to me over the course of the last weekend that even after my inspiring pep talk last week at the Taco Cantina, that maybe you were, we talk about COVID protocols. I don't know that you were following all the taco protocols that were put into place. There were rumors that you were drinking and having a good time before that taco eating contest. Let me tell you, I didn't spend all morning prepping a speech for you to have you go in there and goof off and break everything that we've been working so hard for. So I need an explanation right now.
Okay.
I need an explanation.
Let's just get this out in the open, because apparently the rumors are running rampant in the office Monday morning that I had multiple margarita mimosas.
I personally saw you drink one.
Thank you.
And a couple of baskets of chips.
No. Okay.
What?
No, hang on. No.
Just keep
oh, my God.
No.
You're fired.
No. Hang on. Just everybody hush for a second. I had one margarita mimosa. I do agree that probably inhibited my performance a little bit, but my God, that thing was fantastic at 10 o'clock in the morning. And the chips and salsa, that was probably just the fat boy in me being hungry.
What'd you have to eat the night before to prepare?
Waffle House.
Not the lettuce that Aaron told him to eat.
I told you leafy greens, Matt. Leafy greens.
I know.
That's the opposite of Waffle House.
I know.
Do they serve leafy greens at Waffle House? Because I don't. Every time I've been there, I haven't seen them on the menu.
They do, but they wasn't on my plate Friday night. So
they're slightly wilted over there.
At, I'll let you down and let the whole state down. And trust me when I tell you that all I have gotten this week is just pure hell from Ty, from our boss Tommy Kraft, from these two knuckleheads sitting across from me right now. It hasn't stopped. So I accept all punishment.
Job. That's all I'm saying. Lucky still. You should be out the door like Chad Morris. No, my radio partner Arnie Spanier, he'll fire me on the spot. Now he doesn't have the authority to do that, but I think I just did that too. You're fired, Matt. I need you to take a lap and think about what you did. All right.
Oh, this is going to be my last time interviewing Aaron Torres, I guess, here on Halftime. Oh, man.
You should have thought about that before you drank all those margarita mimosas.
It was just one. Okay. Anyway, before I start cursing on the show.
Leafy greens, Matt. Leafy greens. Continue.
I need to eat more leafy greens moving forward. All right. away from one loser to probably another one. Mike Krzyzewski, what is going on with Duke right now? Because you've seen, you've been vocal about this on Twitter, and I'm kind of curious from your standpoint, and for those that are listening right now and aren't aware of what's going on, kind of catches up on what's happening with Mike Krzyzewski. And from what I've seen, a lot of people kind of just, they started off losing. It's just kind of a losing tactic from him. But just catch us up what's going on with Coach Krzyzewski and Duke.
First of all, I love how you just compared yourself to the greatest coach of all time while also calling each of you a loser. That was a real – it went both directions in a hurry right there. But so listen, what Coach K, they lose on Tuesday night. They get smoked by Illinois. They're not very good this year. And what he basically says is that, he thinks – and like some of – at the most basic level, some of it makes sense, right? Why are we having these games? Why are we traveling all over the country? The CDC is literally saying that nobody should be traveling, and we're sending kids all over the country to play basketball. And I also would say, like with Coach K, really briefly, I don't think it's about the win-loss record. He's basically spent the last 6 months arguing these same couple principles. Like, if you guys remember that idiot, stupid idea back in the fall of, let's let everybody into the NCAA tournament. Let's have 340 whatever teams in the NCAA tournament. That was basically Coach K's idea, and the reason behind it was he didn't want to play out of conference games. So he has about a 6-month track record of kind of being on this platform and having this stance. What really frustrates me, and what frustrates me that he's now using his media lackeys like Jay Billis and Dick Vitale to push this message, is exactly what Nate Oates said yesterday, which is very simply this. Is if you care about, we talk about mental health all the time in sports, and it's a very important topic. I've said it on my podcast many times. My wife works in mental health. I take it very, very, very seriously. Well, the only time that these guys get a break with the mental health stuff, get a break from the larger world outside of them, is when they're in the gym playing basketball. And so the idea of postponing this season to some indefinite date, first of all, doesn't even make sense. But two, if we really care about the mental health of these players, we already sent them home to end last season. And they were at home for 2, 3, 4, sometimes 5 months at a time. Some schools weren't allowed to bring them back until July, late July, early August, September, whatever. But if we care about the mental health of these kids, what we shouldn't be doing is locking them down. What we should be doing is doing our best to play basketball. And I understand it sucks every time a game gets canceled, but according to the numbers that I've seen, anywhere between 75 and 80% of the games that have been scheduled have been played. And every time one gets canceled, it feels like a big deal. But on the flip side of it, 4 or 5 are getting played in a pandemic when we're testing people who, oh, by the way, many of them are otherwise healthy and wouldn't even know they had the virus if they weren't being tested every day. So, that's my big thing. If he cares about the mental health of his players, they want to be in the gym, they want to be playing, all that stuff. It just drove me crazy. I don't think it had to do with the win-loss record, but I think he's looking out for Coach K himself, not his players' best interest.
All right, AT, before we let you go, you had alluded to the idea that this is a bit of a wonky college football weekend if you're trying to make some picks and go against the spread in some cases. So, I mean, who are you picking? Give me a game to look at, and if it's Arkansas, Alabama, okay.
I mean, the thing about the Arkansas-Alabama game, Nick Saban has actually been pretty, I don't know what the right word is, but, the second half, he doesn't really try to run up the score. So I could see it being, 24-3 at halftime. And this is no disrespect to Arkansas, but Alabama scored at least 21 points in every first half this season. I think they've scored 28 or more in 5 of their 9 games, 6 of their 9 games, whatever. So I think it could be competitive down the end, but I do think Alabama jumps out to an early big lead. As far as the other games, man, the one that really intrigues me, Phil, weirdly, is that Florida-LSU game because LSU stinks. Now they got nothing to play for. Their top 2 players have opted out. They can't figure out the quarterback position. Florida hasn't been great to start things. The last couple weeks they've had slow starts, but I just don't see how they don't blow out LSU. And LSU still has one more game on the schedule after this. That is a program they need the Coach K just send them home for the holidays treatment because that program, man, I can't believe how quickly it's fallen, how bad it's gotten.
It really is amazing, and it's going to be a big thud when it lands tomorrow. AT, appreciate your time, man. Good luck this weekend, and looking forward to talking about it again next week.
I'm sorry, AT.
Yeah, the
You let me down, Matt. You let me down. Think about what you did, okay?
Yes, sir.
Go stand in the corner and think about what you did. Take care, guys.
Don't ever let him down again.